Hey everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome back. It's Gita here. Thank you for joining me. And I'm back today to do another tarot video. It's been a while since I uploaded any tarot content. And that's been somewhat strategic. I mean, I've been enjoying a little summer recess from making tarot content. And also I feel that, with some of my recent subscribers that I've gleaned, I just want to advise or reinforce that this channel is not just about tarot content, right? It's a personal blog channel. I'm sharing snippets of my life and my passions, and tarot happens to be one of them. So thank you for those of you who are still subscribed and patiently waiting for my next tarot upload. Here it is today. Let's go. Thank you, Eliza, at the Tarot Articultist, the Articultist, for tagging me in this tag. It's making the rounds, and I have to admit, I wasn't particularly inspired by the questions at first. Um, but then I got tagged again by Mary Grace. So thank you both to for tagging me. So I feel like, okay, this is a sign. I need to do this tag. So let's do it. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 5 decks. Okay, 5 decks. This is, I've got a lot of decks. I don't know. I don't really know the criteria. The criteria for which to select your 5 decks was never set out. So this is going to be a random selection of decks. Just kind of first things that pop to mind. So this Taroki Tarot by Jens Freiburg. I mentioned this in my last tarot video where I did my Venusian decks. And at that time, I showed it, but I had not really worked with it then because it was still fairly new to my collection. But since then, I've worked with it all summer, and I'm absolutely obsessed with this deck. I was really happy that I backed the Kickstarter because it was much more affordable than it is now. I mean, it's not outrageous for an indie deck. I think it's like $50 right now, but when the Kickstarter was only like 33 euro or something like that. So it's a really beautiful deck. I loved it when I first showed it, and now that I've been working with it, I love it even more. I haven't been able to put it down. It's based on a few different classic decks, and he's just sort of reinterpreted and meshed it together and created a really beautiful and consistent artistic style throughout. And the readings have been so spot on and super clear. I adore the color palette. And I've always been attracted to classical decks. I really have. And then, with all the new and modern trendy decks that come on the market, I kind of got, they all are appealing, right? The modern ones that come out, and I have quite a few, but I keep going back to looking for like my perfect ideal sort of classical deck. I really like decks that give you that, old world type of vibe, right? That feel like a quote unquote traditional tarot, and this really does it for me, and I adore it. Like, if I would definitely say out of all my decks in my collection at the moment, this is probably the closest to what I would consider a soul deck or a forever deck. The card stock is beautiful. It shuffles beautiful. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It's not too glossy. It's not too matte. It's a really nice deck. He did an awesome, awesome job with this deck. And I like how it's both masculine and feminine at the same time. Like, it's got a really nice blend of masculine and feminine energy. Yeah. So that's the Taroki Tarot by Jens Freiburg, current fave. Next, I'm going to show one of the most recent decks to my collection. This is a Kickstarter that I backed, and it came about a month ago or so. This is called the Void Tarot. And this is also a beautiful deck, which has surprised me. If you're into darker themed decks, gothic style decks, which I wasn't actually for a while, but once I started to embrace them, I I was like, wow, this is what I'd be missing, you know, in my collection. And I definitely feel that by adding some of these darker and like goth themed decks has brought a interesting balance to my collection, which when I first started was really kind of colorful and like Zen, like real colorful Zen vibes. That's what I used to always go for. But this speaks to another part of me, and I really love it. I love these. Okay, the details are very, very fine. It's a monochromatic deck, black, white, and red. I think if you like the Murder of Crows tarot, you may be drawn to this as well. This card is unfortunate because it's a little cut off at the bottom, but regardless, I think this is, she also did a great job with this project. The symbolism matches up. It's, you know, it's reinterpreted and it's very stylized, very themed to, you know, the theme of this gothic Victorian macabre type of vibe. But at the same time, the symbolism and the traditional meanings are there. So I've actually been working with this one this month and using it almost every day, and I really like it. You know, I like, you know, I like a good Rider-Waite Smith inspired, I like a good Rider-Waite Smith inspired deck. And one thing about this, it's super smooth. The cardstock's super smooth, shuffles like butter. It does have that sort of cardstock, whereas if your hands are a bit sweaty, and mine are kind of clammy right now because it's a little warm in here still, it will leave some prints on it, but I think that they will disappear. It's not gonna like, but it won't stay, but I would be very careful about using this deck with like greasy or oily hands, like if you had any lotion or anything on your hands, like I would be real nervous about using it. What am I doing here? Um, but yeah, I haven't seen anybody talk about this deck yet and or show this deck, and it's super cool. What I really like about the images is, well, it's like this, it's this Art Nouveau style, right? So I like how they're set within this motif. But the images, they really remind me of like an old storybook, you know, like illustrations and like those old fairy tales, those old fairy tale books, right? Like, so Hans Christian Andersen, and then there's and I think Andrew Lang is the author or illustrator of a bunch of like illustrated fairy tales. I love this vibe. I really do. So this was a pleasant surprise and really happy to have this, especially for spooky season, which we are now entering. So that's the Void Tarot by Sarai somebody. I don't know her last name, but I know her first name is Sarai. And yeah, cool. Let's move it along. Next deck. Next deck I'm showing because I can't stop thinking about this deck. Well, I've just been thinking about it recently, right? The Metaphysical Cannabis Oracle deck. Now, this is interesting because it's a Tarot Oracle hybrid. And honestly, I was not interested in purchasing this deck at all before it came out. So this deck has a very interesting backstory, which is why I've been thinking about it. And I've been thinking about doing a review of it on my channel. However, I have to admit, I really haven't worked with it since I bought it, right? I was not interested in this deck when it was being hyped up and promoted before the release. It was like one of the most anticipated releases last year, right? And honestly, I was like, what the F? You know, who, like, why, you know? But then when the first couple reviews came out and I saw that it's actually a tarot oracle hybrid, like the majors are inspired by the tarot, and then, you know, it's a 78 card deck. And then there's lots of other cards as well that are not following a tarot system. They go off on their own. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, sometimes you get in a rut just reading tarot all the time. And I like tarot and I like oracle. And I just thought it was an interesting concept. And the colors are beautiful. The colors and the artwork's absolutely beautiful once I saw that in the first reviews, right? And I was like, okay, maybe I will try it out. Now, what was really interesting about this deck is that when it first came out, it actually got some really harsh criticism. And I think the criticism was totally warranted, and the reviewers who gave it a critical review were totally just and appropriate to do so. But I just thought it was really interesting because we often talk about like tarot tube, everybody sugarcoating everything and everybody bigging up decks and hyping up decks, and upon first impressions, you're giving the most glowing review, and in this case, that was not the case. These reviewers received the deck and they work with it for a period of time. I do think that those original reviews were more so first impressions, because I personally consider reviews. I personally feel you can't really review a deck until you've spent more than, I don't know, 6 months with a deck. But anyway, they gave quite critical reviews, and I was actually worried. There was a whole drama that fell out about it, and I'm not going to go into detail right now because I don't want to make this video too long. But I was actually quite concerned that maybe this deck would go out of print or be off the market or something like that. So I decided to pick up a copy for myself and see what the hype was about. Like I said, I haven't used it much. I've only used it a couple times, but I know that I have many friends that would respond to this deck and would enjoy the artwork and stuff. And so the people that I have showed it to in my circle group, in my friend circle, who aren't tarot readers, none of them are tarot readers, but they were like, wow, they were so amazed by the imagery. They thought the imagery was beautiful. So yeah, so I plan to work with this a bit more and to offer some sort of a proper review at some point in time. But I know, a big part of the criticism was that the structure was off. There was a lot of criticism of the structure of the deck, and I thought that was interesting because I know for me, I never I never require a oracle deck to have a structure. I've always assumed that oracle decks don't have a structure and they go their own way. So the fact that this has somewhat of a structure with the tarot major correspondences in there, I thought that was already quite novel and interesting and innovative for an oracle deck. So, I'd like to see people give this one a second chance, albeit the beef and the drama that fell out with the actual creator of this deck, who was very what's the word? She was very aggrieved by the critical reviews that she received of her deck. But anyway, that's for another story, another video. We're not going to go into the drama today, but I do feel like I would love to see more people. I would just like to, I don't know. I would like to see maybe more people give this deck a second chance and review it from like a follow-up perspective. Do you know what I mean? And I also think when we talk about like bias and personal bias and what's your personal bias towards a deck, it's very obvious to me that this deck is created for people who are weed smokers or who have a positive relationship with weed. And I know that in and of itself made this deck controversial from the outset, right? So, I knew that it would be a controversial deck to begin with. So, I just feel like I would like to hear the reviews from the weed smokers and see what see what people who have a positive, or maybe who have more of a I don't know, maybe you come from cultures that are have less stigma towards marijuana, how they would feel about this deck, right? So yeah, because every country, every culture, people feel differently towards marijuana, and I think it's great that it is becoming more and more mainstream, more socially accepted worldwide. But yeah, maybe when this deck came out, we still weren't quite ready for it, or at least this this tarot community, this corner of tarot readers was not ready for it. I don't know. Moving on. This deck is another deck that I don't hear people talking about. It comes in a little bag. Got this one from Amazon. It was on my wish list for quite a while. I ended up biting the bullet. I've always wanted an Egyptian themed tarot deck. And you know, there's tons of Egyptian themed tarot decks on the market. But I know people of color often criticize the fact that a lot of the Egyptian themed tarot decks don't really show Egyptian people as brown people, you know, and we can argue about that, about what color the Egyptians were, who was living in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, and you know, we know that there was other cultures and races in Egypt, right? So I'm not going to go into that because I'm really not a historian. And to be honest, I really don't know that much about Egyptian history. But, you know, like any tarot reader, of course, I need an Egyptian themed deck in my collection. And when I came across this one, I thought it was beautiful and I wanted it. So this is called the Kemetic Tarot Veil of Aset edition. And the colors are absolutely beautiful. The people look, to me, they look like African people, you know, North African, whatever. It looks, you know, what can I say? This is better than the Alana Fairchild Isis Oracle in terms of depiction. I feel like this is more reflective of probably what Egyptian people look like, right? I just really bought it because the art is beautiful. It's really beautiful, and I'm surprised I don't hear more people talk about this deck. And that's why I'm showing it, because I just think it's underrated, it's unknown, and more people should consider this one if you want to bring an Egyptian themed deck into your collection. Okay. It's not cheap. I'm going to put that out as a disclaimer. There was a cheaper version available at one point that didn't have the gilding and the borders. But yeah, I think it didn't have these borders. But that one has been discontinued. So this one is more pricey, this version. But, you know, we know that a lot of melanated decks on the market they start at like high prices, right? So I think that if you are committed to supporting diversity in tarot and decks by melanated creators or whatever, you're committed to filling out your melanated deck collection, then this is one you want to consider. Okay. The suits have been renamed, and also the courts, and they actually give some references to real historical figures, and there's a whole book that goes with it. It's quite a big book. I haven't read it, but yep, that's available for those of you who like a guidebook. Okay, moving along. Last deck, fifth deck. Okay, I've got tons of decks I could show you, but I don't know what else to show you. But I will tell you this, recently this summer, and end of the summer, I watched the series Vikings on Netflix. Oh my God, loved it. 6 seasons long, loved every minute of it, okay? Such a good show. And since then, I have not been able to stop thinking about the Vikings Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. I remember I had hearted it before, like on my Amazon wish list. And now I really want it. I want it even more. So just putting that out there. That's my deck number 5 that's currently in my head. And if anybody actually has a copy that they want to rehome, I have a couple decks that I would be willing to trade. Hit me up. That's my deck number 5, the Vikings Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. Okie dokes. Question number 4. Number 4, tarot books. 4 tarot books. We'll start with the first tarot book I ever got, which is this mammoth, the Holistic Tarot by Annabelle Wen. I was, you know, one of Annabelle Wen's early followers. I actually had her first two decks, the SKT 1 and 2, which I moved along. But this is the first official tarot book I bought, I believe. Yeah, I think so. And I marked it up somewhat. I mean, I read most of it, but then when it got into like all the spreads and stuff, I stopped reading it because I was like, I will read it, you know, like basically I read the first quarter of the book, and then since then I just use it as a reference book. But I think it's a great resource for, you know, for most, for any tarot reader, you know, and Annabelle Wen offers tons of great resources. So yeah, appreciate her work, recommend her work, recommend this book, you know. Probably the only one you need. Then I got this book about a year ago, and I read it very quickly. This is also great for just like a quick immersive read. If you don't want anything too heady, anything too academic, this is a great way to just sink your teeth and get a good excuse me, excuse me, tickly throat. Sorry, the dust from that book is making my throat scratch. But yeah, sorry. Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Sonova. This is a great, just quick read. And even if you just want like a refresher, I would recommend this one. Next, I had this one, Tarot and Astrology, which I really like and really love, and I've read most of it, all of it. I've read most of it. Great for understanding the astrological correspondences and connections to the tarot. And it actually has some good spreads in here too, which I enjoy. And then lastly, a book which I will admit I have not read, but I picked it up because it looked cool. Tarot by the Moon, Spreads and Spells for Every Month of the Year. I was actually a little disappointed because I thought it was going to give like spreads for like new moon, for the new moon and full moon, but they go by the, what do you call it? This like lorical name, Wolf Moon and Strawberry Moon and all those things. So it just gives for basically the full moon, but it doesn't really go into the deets about astrology, the you know the astrological associations. So yeah, to be honest, I've only flipped through this deck. But I bought it and it's in my collection. And I'm really not one that has a lot of tarot books or reads a lot of tarot books. So that is my selection. I have one more tarot book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, which I also haven't read in its entirety. But yeah, those are my four books that I'm going to show you. Question number 3, spreads. Okay, let's use this Mermaid Tarot to show my spreads. I'm not a big spread person. I have my go-to spreads that I go to all the time. So that's literally what I'm showing you in this video here. But yeah, I'm not somebody that has a ton of spreads. I just have my regular spreads that I use, which are the basic 3-card. I think you can get most of what you need in a 3-card reading. So I will do this 2 ways. I'll do the typical past, present, future, or I will read it embrace, focus, release, which is kind of like past, present, and future, but almost like flipped, right? Because kind of want to release what's in the past and focus on and embrace the future. But yeah, that's a standard go-to 3-card spread. Everybody knows and loves, bread and butter. Next spread that I like to do when somebody has like an actual, they need a little more clarity on an issue or a circumstance that they're dealing with, is the Worth spread. It's a 5-card spread. I think I got this actually from Annabelle Wen's book, Holistic Tarot, and I still use it sometimes. So you do 5 cards like this. And basically the first card is like an affirmation or a positive message, affirming your situation. This card here will be the negative, so a bad omen or a negation, something that's like an obstacle or negatively affecting the situation. This top card here will be the advice from the universe, or the divine, whatever you ascribe to. This card here would be the solution card. The fourth card would be the solution card. And then the fifth card is the synthesis. And I've used this spread as well where I actually put a oracle card in the middle. So I do 4 tarot and then an oracle in the middle as the synthesis, you know. But yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. I like that one. I use it. I use it sometimes. I use it pretty often. And then lastly, relationship, you know, everybody wants love readings, right? Most of the time when you're reading for other people, they want advice on their love and relationships. And I got this spread from Saturnarium. I believe, yeah, I got it from her channel. She did this relationship reading spread, which I really liked, and I've used a couple times, and with great success. And this is when you're doing a reading for 2 people. So you allow them to each pick their own deck. So say partner A wants this deck, partner B wants this deck. Then we'll pick 3 cards for partner A, how they feel about the relationship or what's coming up for them, their role in the relationship, whatever. You can freestyle it to your own needs. Partner B here, they choose, you know, you shuffle and draw 3 cards for them, or allow them to shuffle to draw the cards if you don't mind people touching your cards. So we do 3 cards for person B in the relationship, and then we'll take a neutral deck and get a card for person. I'm sorry, we'll get a neutral card from a neutral deck to represent the relationship or the synergy between these 2 people, you know. And you could do more than 1 card here. You could do 3 cards again, but you know, I kind of think 1 card is enough. Or you could do 1 tarot card and like a oracle card, you know, from maybe like a love or relationship deck, which I have a few of those, and I've done it like that before too. So that's a great fun spread. Okay. Question number 2 is, what are 2 tarot habits or paraphernalia? This is hard because I'm very random. Like, I don't know. I don't really have any particular tarot quirks or habits. One thing I do is I will, if I have time in the morning before my children get up and start harassing me, I will pull 1 to 3 cards with my morning coffee, and that's like a daily ritual. And I don't always have time in the morning because sometimes they wake up just immediately after I get up. It's like they smell me that I'm awake, and they're like, they just wake up. So sometimes I don't have that time to do that daily morning pull. And if I don't, I will do it in the evening time when they go to sleep. 3 cards just to reflect on my day, or just to touch base with the divine. And yeah, I do that every day. And some days I will do both morning and evening. Some days it's only evening. Some days it's only morning. But that is a tarot habit for myself. I will pull cards every day. And sometimes I will actually back off if I feel like I need a period of just not touching the cards. And that may last like a week or 2. But generally it's a daily ritual for me. And then the other thing is on my period. I like to read on my period because I always find that my psychic sense is very strong when I'm menstruating. So that's another tarot habit of mine for sure. Last question. 1 card to embody or advice to give. I will show you. This is one of my favorite cards. So since I first got into tarot, I've always resonated with the Hanged Man. I love the number 12. I love the number 4. I really love the number 4. 4 times 3, you know, 3 is the number of the Trinity. 3 is always like a holy number, 3 and 7. So 4 times 3, 12. I love the number 12. If you add 12, it adds up to number 3, which is the Empress card. Hello. Love the Empress as well. But I actually much more resonate with the Hangman than the Empress. The Empress is more of like an ideal for me. whereas the Hangman feels like a very natural energy for me to be in. It's that pregnant pause. It's that card of surrender, crucifixion. There's a lot of, a lot of times people feel like passivity or inaction is counterproductive, but there is a lot of potential and power in in being passive for a moment and just cooling out and just recognizing that maybe maybe you don't have the answer in this minute, or maybe you don't have the energy in this moment, and that you just need to continue to download and wait for the right time. um you know but anyway, yeah, that's my 5 4 3 2 1 tarot synopsis. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I am going to tag my friend over at Tea and Tarot, Robert Farah from Tea and Tarot. Tea and Tarot. I mentioned him. I don't know if you guys remember Robert. I showed him in my Tarot Tube Outliers video. And at the time that I mentioned his channel, he only had like 300 subscribers. And I'm so proud of him. He's just reached 1,000 subscribers, and he does amazing content, regular content. If you're looking for regular uploads and just really kind of great, no nonsense reviews and very practical tarot advice, go check out his channel. Adore him. So I tag you, Robert, to do this tag. And yep, thanks. We'll talk. Bye.